Are you still here? Yeah, you are. Good. Thanks. Thank you very much. After, so many very good speakers, especially people who speak for a living. People like me push papers for a living. So we are not natural speakers, so kindly forgive me. Harry, it was a great beginning, and I must say, the Italian, they say that it was Italian nationalism of Garibaldi, Cavour, and Mazzini which created Italy. In case of India, it was India which created Indian nationalism. I can actually speak 15 minutes on that, but I will not. But don't read too much of FT and Economist. They're so wrong in India, they must be so wrong on everybody else also. I've realized that after reading them for years and years and years. Now, one of the advantages of talking about Indian future is that if I look at the last 30 years, and to quote Ruchir Sharma, so I won't take any credit for it, but I love the line, we have constantly disappointed optimists and pessimists. And that tells you a lot about the country. Now, one of the advantages we have, and we have cleavages, and you were mentioning those cleavages, is that unlike in many other countries, our cleavages are not vertical cleavages. We have thousands of horizontal cleavages with no cleavage big enough to disrupt the system. So we can handle one problem at a time. So while we like to talk about our problems, and it is very important to address our problems, the fact is in sum total, we haven't done too bad a job. Considering if you read the literature in India in the 50s and the 60s and the 70s, we shouldn't be speaking here just now. We should not be here at all. Now we have some advantages. Geography is an advantage to us. Now the new word is geostrategy, effectively geography. Our location, with the shift of the global power, global economic heft back to this part of the world, to a broader version, the Indo-Pacific, all the way from India to the western coast of the United States. We are very well located. If you look at movement of oil, the location of oil, the location of energy reserves, what have you, we are very well located. The second is something we were told was our biggest problem was population. Now everybody says our biggest advantage is our population. China has started aging before it has got rich. India is still growing. It's slowed down a lot, but still growing. We will be the world's largest country. But more important, in the year 2030 or so, 2030 to 2035, somewhere in between, 40% of all young people in the world under 30 would be Indians. That's a tremendous asset that you have, tremendous asset that we have. And when you add to that a vibrant, raucous, chaotic democracy, that's not such a bad deal. Democracies slow down decision making, definitely. But democracies bring out all aspects of the case also. Can somebody tell Xi Jinping that his South China policy is nonsense? It will get China into deep trouble? Nobody can. The pushback that is happening against Chinese investments. So while the politicians love the investment because it comes in suitcases, more often than not, when the people get the chance, they express themselves. And if Mahathir could go to Beijing and in Beijing announced cancellation of the two of the biggest BRI projects in Malaysia, and Zambia as a pushback, the Maldives elections, happenings in Sri Lanka, even Pakistan has started questioning it to that extent that China had to pull up Imran Khan. You don't criticize it. I think we are that way being a vibrant democracy on a much better ground. Now, we will soon be the 5th largest economy. If the rupee was at 64, we would already have become, but the rupee is 71.972, so we are not yet there. We will soon become the fastest largest economy in the world. And another big advantage that we have, continue to have, is 65% of our GDP is domestic consumption. So while we are affected by the world, 45% of our GDP is now international trade, 25 exports, 20 imports to 28 exports. The fact is that we have such a large internal consumption, gives us tremendous amount of breathing space. I hate projections. As a famous American baseball player, Yogi Berra said, I hate predictions, especially about the future. But sometimes you take some good calculations, econometric based calculations, a little seriously. Today, we are 2.5 trillion up, give and take a few million, 100 million, billion here up and down, thanks to the depreciation. China is close to 11 trillion. 2030, we should be around 7.5. China is 26.5. So we'll grow 3 times, they would grow 2.5 times. By 2050, we would have been touching 30 and they would be at 50. Gap will still be substantial, but the point I'm making is that we will continue to grow, barring, of course, calamities, for a very, very long time to come at a very fast rate. We have the potential, and natural factors will help us. So even if we screw up many things, other things will still operate for us. It's called in economics, we call it the base effect. The base effect, we are so low, we made the 5th largest economy in the world, but the 150th in per capita income, a little better in median income, so we can still grow at a very, very long time. But the new world order that is emerging, and I wish we could talk about that, would see the US for a long time to be the number one. Let's not mince words. US is and shall remain the number one. If you read a book in 1990 by Paul Kennedy, a very famous historian, by 2000, Japan would have been the world number one. Well, it isn't anywhere around. USA shall continue to be. China is and shall be the number 2. We will be the number 3. There's no doubt about it. Russia won't be the large economy in terms of numbers because of natural strengths in minerals and in technology and in the armed forces, more important. Russia will be somewhere up there. So this is the kind of world that we are going to see as it emerges. Provided, of course, we stay the course and don't do too many mistakes, though we love making mistakes. What has happened really in the last few years, Alvin Toffler thought in 1970 of future shock. But the future shock has come now. And it has come in such a creeping manner that we haven't noticed it. The fact that this has replaced 50 things. It has replaced most officers, secretaries you don't have. This handles that job. It has replaced your travel agent. It has replaced your calendar. It has replaced your diary. It has replaced your address book. It has replaced the post office. I mean, it can replace the camera. I mean, it has replaced your music device. So, it replaces everything, and we don't know. And it gives you the time, Harry, yes. But my 15 minutes are not yet up. Yeah, that has done much more. That does much more. It tells you about your life. It tells you about your health. So these things have happened in a manner that we didn't notice it happening. But it has really changed the world that we know it. Now, the normal method of growth was agriculture to manufacturing to industry over 300 years, 400 years. We didn't have the luxury. We didn't try it also. Certain structural problems in our thinking. So we jumped straight from agriculture to servicing, leaving a big void in manufacturing. For a country of our size and our GDP, our manufacturing is pathetically low. And lots of arguments whether it's good or bad. Can we handle this change that is happening? The fact is that if today, thanks to new machines, you can make a pair of shoes in Germany and United States, and the USA manufacturing is now again coming back with a boom. 26% of the GDP already in the USA with half the workforce than before. Because now you don't need the kind of repetitive assembly line productions anymore. What will it do to our model of growth, our service-led model of growth? What would it do to business outsourcing? What would it do to medical transcription, etc., etc.? That is something it will definitely affect very many ways. It will affect manufacturing actually much, much more. Because if coal and hardware were the raw materials of early industrial ages, coal, iron, hardware later on, for the next industrial revolution which has come upon us, it is data which is the driving factor. And we don't really, none of us really realize how even in any aspect of life today, data is so important. Your Gmail page and my Gmail page is never the same. Your Google page and my Google page is never the same. The moment I check up on flight details to Bombay, each time I get messages about hotel rooms in Bombay. So it's not just used by standard businesses, it's used even by public institutions a lot. In hospitals, you need it a lot and you can use it a lot. Libraries, which are the books in much in demand. Where should we place our books in our shelves? Depending on visibility. Every aspect of our life today, data is important. And therefore, the new world which has emerged is one which is rich in knowledge, very technological heavy world. And the jobs really that are on the horizon, which are increasing in numbers and increasing in a very, very big way, would be software and application development in all kinds. It would include aspects of cybersecurity. It would include simple gaming devices, to everything in between, everything in between. The IT infrastructure, none of this is possible without a very, very robust and continuously upgraded IT infrastructure. And again, in very specifically, and I'm mentioning this separately from the others, is in big data analytics. That is a staggering field that we have found how you can actually change the world. It can actually change your thinking patterns to make you question whether any of us actually have the concept of free will at all. Do we actually have free will? Or are we nudged along the way every time and we don't realize that we are doing what somebody else wants us to do? What was the complaint about Russia and the American Revolution? It was not that they were manipulating the voting machines. It was that they were manipulating the voters into believing and disbelieving things. That is the use of data in a massive, massive way. For a country like India, there are two things which we have to do. It's absolutely essential to have to do. One is that really understand, of the whole range of Internet of Things, AI, genomics, all important, is 3D manufacturing. I saw years ago in Ohio at a biomedical school where they were training nurses and all, how they used 3D printers to manufacture parts of the human body. How do they manufacture exact placements to put your spine upright or to put your damaged fingers right? I was really impressed by it. The biggest advantages between then and now, then they were using only resin, now they're using all kinds of materials. And because it's comparatively low capital cost, it does not require an assembly line. So you don't have the repetitive processes, and therefore you don't require hundreds of spare parts because you're building it up completely internally as an organic piece. When you change your product line, you don't need to retool your machines. You don't need to manufacture new molds. The most expensive thing in an industry is to make a new mold. You do not need to do that. All you need to just change the software. Very, very cheap, very, very fast. Why in India? Because 3D manufacturing is perfect for the MSME sector. With massive amount of decentralization around the country because of our size and our local markets, you can manufacture local products for the local market much cheaper than anybody else can, because the logistic costs are not there. And low capital, you don't need so many, as I said, linkages between your suppliers and your markets. It's so much simpler to do, so we can do it. The other is paradoxically the opposite of this, which is that because we are a low per capita income country, and we are probably the only very peculiar economy where, when you study economics and you do the income, national income, and you put people in quintiles, too small, 10%, then quintiles, 20%. Now this is the only country where up to the fourth quintile, 80%, people are poor. So when people say middle class in India, you're talking about people at the 85th or 90th quintile. You're not talking people at the 50th or the 60th point. That is remarkable. So therefore you have a massive market available to you which is growing. So you can actually, India must actually make tremendous effort. And I actually prepared for what India should be doing, because that's the initial topic and not the future of India in that sense. The massive amount of middle class, middle level engineering required across the country, the tire repairers in a different form now that you don't have tubes, but car repairers, etc. You can still do a lot of manufacturing and low-end services, upgrading yourself all the time. At the same time, when you do 3D printing, the Internet of Things, and you go to the top level. So you have a full range of options available with us. So we don't have to choose one or the other. We can choose all of the above. Thank you very much.